To start off making the box, we are going to need 2 sheets of the box paper of your choice from the CD-ROM, the template, good quality glue, pencil, something to cut with, and a ruler to cut along. Now what I'm going to do is just show you a method. It's really up to you, but I'm going to share with you how I would do this. So we're going to pop the template on. Now, one thing that I notice on the darker ones like this, first of all, you're drawing onto the actual pattern itself, and it's not always easy to see the pencil line. So what I would suggest you do is actually cut out part of this before you start. So I would be tempted now to just run my ruler along this straight line here, and I might as well come all the way along here, and just down here as well. Now this is going to give us a basic shape. We're going to need to cut these lines out anyway, but I'll show you why we're doing that. So there we go. That's our, just a bit of housekeeping, get rid of the rubbish, and there we go. Now that's cut out there. So if I can just show you now why we're doing that, because what I'm going to do is just line the template up here. Now yours will have a straight line. There's a little divot in that. Ignore that. This is my development one. So I'm lining up with that line there, and that line there. So that's 3 cuts I don't have to make. And we can see if this spills over a little bit there, it doesn't matter. It's the tab. And so that's where we're going to pop this when we flip it over. So that will make sense now. So now I'm just going to pop the template on here, line it all up, pop my tape on there just to hold it into position because the phone is bound to go off, and then we can draw around it. Now we can ignore this part because that's just the tab line. We can ignore this because that's that's the popping up mechanism, that little bit in there. You probably recognize it if you've made this style of box before. And this part here is the tab that creates the whole tab that runs within the box, which acts as what we call the support. So we don't need that. So just around the edge, and I'll just go with my pencil here, hold that down, and run along. Doesn't matter if the tape's missing there. And I'm going to switch to my sharper pencil here. And then I'm ignoring all of that. So a line here, and I'm going to stick to this side and just run everything to the right-hand side and up here. And the same here on this one. I'm going to make the bigger panel now. And not forgetting my 2 verticals here, or 1 and 2. So again, I'm going to go to the inner part of the line on there. This part here, fairly crucial. This is our cut line. I'm going to go in and around, and that should make, in fact, I'm going to pencil in a bit. There we go, nice dark line. I want to cut all of that out. That enables the box to move freely. With my trusty ruler, all I've got to do now is go on ahead and cut this out. So, that's breaking away there. No right or wrong here. Craft knife, scissors, whatever you want. And it's a very forgiving process, this box. So keep it as neat and as we can, and we'll be fine. All nice straight lines out. It's quite a joy to work with. Pop my ruler on there. I'll tell you what's going to cut better. That grips, so I'm going to be better off just popping it here. Again, you'll find this easier at home. I'm trying to keep my head out of the camera shot, which is why I'm going everything on a screwy angle, so you get to see me cutting and not the back of my head. There we go. That's all out from there. And while we've got this, I'll just focus in on that part there. So what I tend to do, line up on that line there, do 1 cut to here. Oh, incidentally, let me just show you here. Now again, so I'm working with the development stencil, but just get your line. I've redesigned it so these lines touch a little bit more down the end there. We're going to come to that point there. So I'm drawing that in by hand rather badly. And I've gone over a little bit, but I'm going to line up here and just pop my first line in there and then move that over. So I'm taking a little bit more out of here, and then just, I've got my pencil line there. I went over slightly, but I have a gap. You basically want to create a gap like that. Again, we're not too critical, but I'm taking the waste away from this little part rather than from here. There or thereabouts, it really doesn't matter. I've gone in slightly, but it's going to be absolutely fine. Again, very, very forgiving to make this. And now what I'm going to do is just use my back of my scalpel. A scoring tool would be much, much better, but I've walked in without one. I'm going to use the back of this. Now, one reason for working here, and I believe we've got one on there, right there, is that when we fold this, you're not going to damage the surface on there. Now, when I flip it over, you can see there is a little bit of a mismatch there. That doesn't matter. That tab is going to be popped away anyway. You could have lined everything up in the middle if you wanted to, but I said it's so much easier, I think, to do it this way. Okay, so everything's scored there, and I'll just do my verticals. I always forget to do these. So again, line up. And so our next job is to simply fold everything. So that's going to come over there. And this one is going to come down. I'm just going to flip that round and just pop my ruler there and my hand underneath and just use that as a lever to pull that over there like so. And then flatten that down. And now we're going to pull that one up there. We didn't need that line there. That was just a guideline. I'm really sorry. I think on my development one, I've taken that one out on the final one, but that was just there as a guide. So I've gone ahead of myself slightly here, but we're waiting for the final ones to arrive. So if you're watching this, I wanted to give you a movie. So yours will either come with that in there, but I think I've probably deleted that because you really don't need it. It stops there. But that's how our folding works. And then this one will come down here. And what I will do is just unfold it and then have a nice little crease on the tab. Again, the tab can be a little bit tricky. So a ruler against the edge there, just my finger in underneath, gets it on its way at 90 degrees. Happy with that. And then just fold that and crease it. Little bone folder, something if you want to put a tighter crease. But again, that's going to be glued at 90 degrees anyway. Let me just run through the folding process again, because this is different from how we've normally done the boxes. We've cut everything out, it's folded, it's scored. And what we're going to do is just bring everything around on itself, because unlike our other popping boxes where the flaps would come out, what we're doing is just creating a base and then a backdrop. And to make it all nice, I've decided that all our cut edges would be at the base. So that's going to be my first one there. And we're not going to glue that because the next tab is going to lock into it. So we could actually start gluing these as we go. In fact, let's do that. No, I won't. I'm going to show you first, and then if we need to have a look again, we could do it with the gluing. So I'm folding the first one over like so, and then that now comes out and just folds over again. And that now creates the back of the box like so. So when we turn it over, this is the inside of our box. We've got our all-important gap there. Fold that, make sure that it now folds nicely. And we've got this panel here that we're going to put our backdrop panel on. And in fact, I'll just show you one of those. That's what it looks like here. So we can actually glue it at this point and then line it up. There's a little bit of play on the top and slightly at the side, so we can trim that later on, but that's what it looks like. So let's go ahead, do some gluing. Now I'm looking at this, and before I go any further, I can see I've missed. Can you see I'm a little bit out of my crease there? And I really do need to tighten that up because it's going to actually form the base of the box on there. So I'm going to pull that over. If it happens to you, don't worry, just pull it over. It's a little bit more. There we go. Because although it's created a bit of a crease line there, it just shows you it goes wrong even for the best of us, doesn't it? Look, there you go. That's, I know it's going to just help me when it comes to making up the box. It's a little bit neater. As I come down there, that will create the baseline now and line up a little bit nicer down there. So it was me rushing and trying to keep my head out of shot. And there we go. The rest of it, absolutely fine. Again, near enough is good enough, and that would have probably been fine. So, gluing. Good quality glue. We're not going to glue that one because we're going to have our next tab joining there. A little bit of glue on here. And just pull that one over. Give that a second. And flip that over. Pop a little bit of glue. And again, I'll just pull that one over and along so it lines up. You can see that's where I really didn't have my crease done that well. And there we go. So that's our first panel, and we're going to go on and make the second panel, and I'm going to do it in exactly the same way, except I'm only going to do 2 layers. I'm going to show you that in a minute, but before I do that, and as we're at this stage, can I just show you the backdrops here? You'll notice that on the CD-ROM, we've got a couple of, well, a number of them for you to choose from. I'm going to do a Land Rover scene. I think in the countryside, I'm going to use this one here. And what I like to do is drop it down all the way to the base here. Now, because we've got a slight indent on the box, you find that the lower section here can sometimes just get in the way a little bit. So I'm going to just pop a little pencil line from here to here and just decide on one side. I'm going to line it up along here, and I'm just going to cut a little tab out from here, if I can show you. Like so. It's just a little step so that when it goes in, so I'm lining up straight onto that side there, a little tab, and that allows a little bit of movement on the box. Later I'm going to chop this off anyway. If I just flip it over, it might just be sticking over. It's a little bit of what I call wiggle room on there. But just while I'm gluing it, otherwise it creates a little bit of a mess on there. You could, I suppose, if you want to be do it all in one shot, you could pre-cut it, but it's hard to know where you're coming on there. So that's the logic of what I'm doing. Again, good quality wet glue, or however you want to, you could use your tape pen, put a little bit of glue on there. And I'm just going to run that really around the edges, I suppose, is the most important thing. I'm being a little bit fast and flippant. I know this is going to push out and then spread out for me. So line that up there, coming down to the base, and I'm lining up with that edge along here. So that's one less cut to make. That's just indented there, and pop that down, let it hold for a second. So that's the base of my box in there, and if I flip it over, we can see the little bit of play or overlap that we had built in there. So at this stage, I'll cut that out. Now, with this back panel, it doesn't have to be cards. You could actually print on paper if you wanted to. Although I quite favour, I found 160 GSM is quite thin. It's just, and gives a little bit more oomph to the box. But it's up to you. But I have used paper as long, I mean, that's absolutely fine. And we've just covered over that back seam there, but it's not going to show at all. So that's our first panel made. So I'm going to just run through very briefly the second panel and pop the whole box together. And then we'll just look at the support here and pop our Land Rover on there. Now the second part of the box only utilises this part, and we're going to use this to create our decorative tab. So what I'm going to do is just pop that over there just to show you. So I'm going to use this section here as a straight line and go all the way across there, then flip this over and just draw that section out there. So when it comes to cutting out, if you want to, we're just going to line the top of the stencil there. I'm just going to draw that line in. It gives me a rough guide. But in truth, I can just measure a straight line across there, and that pretty well works for me. So the whole of this section now comes off, like so. So we're going to use that to create our tab with a little later on. So that's what we're working with there. And now we can just come down on this piece here as well and just cut down across there and remove that. And that will act as our guideline there, there and there. Let's pop that out of the way and I'll come back with the template now and show you. So what we're going to do is just pop that back there to there. So as we turn it over, it's going to go that way. Again, don't be afraid to have a look. It's easy to get confusing. Where am I going? What am I doing? Tab, tab to tab, and you'll be absolutely fine. And we're just lining up across the top here. I've used the top line there. That goes into the corner there, so that's 2 less cuts to make. A little bit of tape just to hold it into position across the base there. I'm going to come down and just draw around here. So a line there. Again, we ignore that. We do want the tab line here. And that one there, I'm going to the top of the line. And we've got our fold in the box here. So we pop that there for you. And this is our fold line, so, or score line rather. So I'm going to the inner part there. Just remove that. And that's what it looks like now. So that's our section there. And all we've got to do now is go ahead and just cut this out and then pop the score lines in. But before I glue this panel, just show you, if we line it up, we can see the bits and we can glue that one so around the edges, and I can just pull that down like so. Give that a second to let it set, and then we're ready just to pop in on our tabs here. However you want to do that, this really does need good quality wet glue. What I love about this is it's flexible, it's very strong, but it's designed to move. So as your box flexes, it's going to work with it, and it's you can get this off our website. It's my 5-star premium glue. I've developed it really for paper making kits, 3D crafting, etc. Okay, now I'll put a bit of card under there so we don't make a mess of it. And something I recommend is I'm going to line everything up now on my cutting mat line here to keep this square. So when I glue it, that's an obvious mistake. But it just helps you keep everything nice and true. So that's our baseline there. Pop that over, pop that down. And we do want a little gap in there, so that's good. But ideally, we want those two to touch there again as well. So I can line up there. That's at the back of the box. It's not really going to show, but I try and keep everything as neat as possible. We'll have a little gap in there. That's lined up there, a bit of wiggle room, and then pop some pressure on, and that's ready to go. And then a bit of glue on here around the edges, and this can now come down. We can see again we've got room for this to fold and to move. And what's going to happen now is this part's going to come over and we're going to glue that part to there. So you've got a number of ways of doing it. I'm just going to pull that over at that section there. Now just before I do that, I'm looking, I've got a little bit of a white line there. Again, folding's a little bit off. Doesn't matter. Before I glue it, I should have done it before, but I just want to show you because this is going to happen. Let's just pop it on there and just take a little section out so it looks nice and neat. We're not affecting the box in any way. That looks really nice there now. And so that comes over there. That's going to go to there on that fold. And it's ready just to glue into position. So again, a little bit of waste card under there. Now, let's just come back there. So you really want to make sure that you get that edge, and it might be a bit tricky to see. I'm just going to fold it. Sorry, it won't show up to the camera, but then I know where I am. On there. Pop it down there. It's probably a little bit too much glue. Just fold that over. Give that a couple of seconds. A little bit of heat. 1, 2, 3. And the nice thing with this glue, if it comes or spills over, it does dry absolutely crystal clear. That's one of the things with it. Whoops. I'm going ahead of myself here. Let me just give that a second to glue. The tabs really make the strength of the box. That's what allows everything to move, and we've got to give that a little bit of time to set. So that panel there now can come over, and that will lock that into position as well. So what I'm doing, I'm just letting that glue, I'm going to push it back the other way. Now you'll notice with these box cards there's a natural fold to it, and it actually wants to fold that way. So I'm teasing it a bit, and I'm putting it under pressure on that joint. But there we go. Glue onto there and just fold that in like so, and that will now lock our joint there. I'm going to put it back the way that it naturally wants to fold, and then just let everything settle down. But there we go. That's our basic box shape there, all coming together, and that's how our card's going to eventually spring up. And let's go back now and have a look at our template here. We have, let's just remove my tape, we have our popping mechanism there, which we can cut out and add on it, and then we actually have our tab here. Now you don't need the popping mechanism, but if you do want to put it in there, I would suggest you make that first. So when it comes to the tab, I'm going to recycle this part that I've got here. It's going to line my template back on there. Again, you can make this at various sizes. I will just pop my pencil line in to show me there, and come down there and just work my way along there. Those are my score lines, so just draw those in like that, and that's what our vehicle in this instance is going to fit in. I could have perhaps put a little bit more gap on the other side, but it's going to be fine. But this way, I mean, you don't have to use the paper that we've got here. I mean, in truth, you can make up anything you want. If you want to work on that or make a feature of the tab, by all means do so. I'm going to use the back of the blade here and just score it. I should really do it the other side, so I'm being a little bit gentle. I'm just going to cut this out now, like so. Just that creates the tab. Again, you can be using a ruler if you want to. I'm just doing this by hand, like so. And again, there's a score line there. And I'm actually going to just show you another method. Once you can see where those corners are, you can work on the back. And that will give you a nice fold without actually cutting the paper. Now let me show you the wrong way, really. I know this is why I like to work from the back. If you score it here, now this is particularly sharp, so I'm going to overemphasize this. I'm going to cut into there, and there is a danger. Can you see the cracking of the paper? You see the white. Now when that's on the box, that's probably not going to show. So if I come back to the box now, what we've got, clear the decks, let's bring the box in and show you. So if we drop that up right there, this is going to sit in here like so. Now if we want the popping box mechanism on there, it's going to sit at the corners. We're going to have to shorten this down a little bit. So this, at this instance, is going to come across our line here, and I'm just going to stick that there. And you can either come closer to, further from, or even have a couple of them in there if you want to have something else in the background. I'm just going to go halfway along and just glue that into the box, as it were. If you want the popping mechanism on there, you'll probably need to make this, well, you will need to make it shorter to allow for the popping box mechanism to fit in there and the tab. So what you can do is, if you want to do that, is you can move this up a little bit. Let me just show you some techniques, first of all. The obvious technique is just to slice some off the base here, like so. Let me just show you that. So I can slice a section off from here, not being... just square that up so it's roughly there. It looks a bit odd because I've got some green there. Let's just run that through again. There we go. So that makes it a little bit shorter. and so that will allow a little bit of room. The pop-up tab here is derived from this section here, and again we've got a little bit of wiggle room on it, so once you've cut them up or before you make it, you've got to be careful of that point there, but we can come down a little way on there as well, and that will make this a bit shorter, and we have to make 2 of these, but there's enough there to allow it all to for the elastic band to drop in, so a little bit shorter is fine, and that will go into the section here. So if you're going to do it, make 2 of these, and then we make sure that it clears. There we go, and if that's in position there, when our tab's on top, it just wants to rest. Our tab will want to rest on top of it, like so. Now, so that's a great way of doing it. We can cut those down to size, make those a little bit shorter. We're going to have to do that. Another method, by the way, let me just show you here. I would have just, finishing this off, I'd have just by hand cut the little tabs there. To raise this a little bit higher, just come up on a square line there, come in, or actually just come at an angle just to create a tab. And again, I'll come down and just continue the tab, and I can stick this, as it were, above the parapets. So if I show you, so that can come in and rise a little bit higher, like so. So that, there we go. I haven't glued it into position yet, but that will just sit like so, a little bit higher, giving me room underneath to pop the popping box mechanism in. So a little bit of glue on the tabs there and there. I'm just going to bend those backwards, and we're going to just pop that. I just pop it up like so. You can see that's just going to rest within the box. Probably go about halfway. I'll raise this one up slightly, though we had our popping box mechanisms, you can see there. So I'm going to glue that one in by hand and try and get it, I don't know if you can see on the camera there, that's not at 90 degrees. That's not good. We want that to be a nice, even height. I'm going to stick this one down and show you on the camera. It won't pick up because we're on the overhead, but let me just pop that into position first. I'll show you what I mean. If you can see in there, I've got a good, nice straight line coming there. Now, where you place, you can have it nearer the back or the front, that's up to you. So we've got that in position now, like so. And what I'm going to do now is just pull this into position where I want it there, and just close the box. And that's it. We've got that sticking up. There we go. Let that glue for a second. If I open it up, you see that's our tab there. Now the next thing to do is to pop in our vehicle. Now there is an advantage to actually having this sticking up, and that method you could probably put a little bit more in there. Some of the vehicles run what I call vertically across, like some of the cars. Now this one's more of a jaunty angle, so it's going to disappear a little bit into the box, but when we put it upright it'll look fine. But a little bit more grass in there wouldn't go amiss, because it would perhaps come up, and I could even make it wavy. It doesn't have to be straight. So let me show you how to do that. This is just, again, a serving suggestion. So if I come back to my original piece of card here and just pop a template back onto it there. Now, and I'm just going to go to do the same method now. I'm just going to cut this out and make it, and just have it sticking up a lot more and pop it there behind it. So let's just show you that method as well. Could be useful for some of the vehicles. A lot of them, I said, their wheels are running almost like that, so it's not so critical. But hey, let's have a bit of fun. So what I'm going to do now, same again, just create another tab, but have a little bit more fun with it. So here's my second attempt at the tab. I'm going to have it a little bit higher. I think I have the Land Rover sitting there. Now I could have made this deeper. I didn't have to use the stencil there. In fact, I should have perhaps just, gosh, I'm making this up as I go along, really, isn't it? That was just a guideline. If I knew, I could have actually just used that line there even as a guide and said, well, I'll come up to here and then drop down to there. But it really is up to you. So what I'm going to do now is just break this straight line up by just cutting in a little bit of curve, just make it slightly more exciting. And then I'm going to come down quite a way here and then just drop in my tab there. It's not much of a tab to hold it. So I really could have done with making that a little bit deeper. So if I come up here again, so come down and just create my tab like so. Fold that in there, pre-score that, fold it in, and there we go. So again, as this is coming up, I might just have a bit of fun with the corners there. What I love about this is we're making this sort of 3D display box here. We can really have some fun with how we display things. We can experiment and see how it goes. Now, if I come back to my original box, that's the section in there. Yep, I could pop my Land Rover on and it would be fine, but I think it would look a lot nicer being a little bit taller. So I'm going to add that into there. But just remember, if we're going to do a popping box mechanism, we've just got to make sure there's room for that to sit in there as well. If I increase that down so that the elastic band isn't going to hit as you go across. So we still have to be aware of that if you want to make it pop, that we've got enough height to allow that. Let me just show you here. What we've got to do is allow for this can come right down to the base there. In fact, it would go that way up. And then this one just sits on top like so. Let's straighten that up for you on the camera. Like that. So we want to make sure that they're not overlapping, and then everything's going to be fine. So that's something to think about as you're doing it. Now I'm going to pop this on, and I'm pushing the limits a little bit with these tabs. They're a wee bit small. So as ever, just squeeze that one in there, pop this one in, and line it up where you want it to go distance wise. I think about there. So I'm just going to pop that in there. Just give it a second or so to grab. Show you on the camera there. And then this one will just come along, and again I can just work that. It's going to find its own way, but I'm just going to pop it into position and then just slowly squeeze that down, pull it up a little bit. So I've got the tab there, and again just give that a second or so to glue. So now as we open up, we can see that I've got a little bit more room on there. So I'm ready now for my Land Rover. I can just glue that in and pop that into position here. So a little bit of glue on the wheels. And again, on the website, all the details for how to make these up. If you look on the tutorial pages as well for your chosen vehicle. So let's pop that there. And I'll just fold this down for the moment, it's a bit easier. But you can see now how we can have fun just playing around with where it's going to go with the background. You know, I could build up things around it as well. I can build out and around the box. This is just the starting point for your adventure. If I open this up there, we can see we've got that lovely card. Lots of depth in there now. A little bit of wiggle on the grass would have looked nice, but that's a fantastic box card for us there. And if we have a look underneath, we can see everything in here, and we're ready if we want to just to pop these two mechanisms into the corner there, and they'll clear nicely, and we can run our elastic band. So we'll pop one in one corner, one in the other, and pop the elastic band in, and that will then pop up as they open it up out the envelope. Okay, well here's our finished card, and what I love about these is that this is just our starting point. It opens itself up to all sorts of embellishments. Although we're using our vehicles here, there really is a lot of opportunity to work with these with different die cuts. We can accessorize, we can build out. This is really just the starting point for it. And I think they're great fun cards to make. It gives us this lovely little bit of panorama as we look at the card, and we can even play around with that, add extra elements to it as well. Lots and lots of possibilities for you. Well, I hope you enjoy this project. It really is quite simple to make, and as I said, you don't have to pop the popping mechanism in if you don't want to. If you do, just follow the instructions and allow for the height. But I think the great part of this is the versatility. You've got so many things that you can do with it, and they really do look fantastic. So have fun and enjoy your crafting. Take care. Bye-bye.